This podcast is supported by patrons. You can find a full list of them in the description of this episode. Hello, listeners and viewers of Good Morning BSS World podcast. This is Wiktor, Doktor, and today we are going to Africa, but not exactly directly to Africa because we will go to United States first. And within the United States, I have met virtually two people with whom I am going to talk about fantastic country, which is Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe is a business destination for BPO and especially for CX services. How is it possible? How does it work? Those are the topics which we will cover during today's conversation. And my guests today are Zen and Kelli, with whom I am connecting now. And I will start with Zen. Zen, how are you? Tell us a few words about yourself.
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having us, Wiktor. Zen, I'm the CXO, Chief Experience Officer at 263 Hub. My job essentially is to oversee entire customer experience journey and ensure deliverable, I think, exceptional value for every touch point in our business. We're going to talk about Zimbabwe, explain to you why it's such a phenomenal destination for BPO, outsourcing. And yeah, just very excited to be here, Wiktor, and speak to all the people in Europe and Poland.
Thank you very much. And you are accompanied with Kelli. Hi, Kelli. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. I'm Kelli Barabasz, and I've been with 263 Hub just a few months now. However, it's an absolutely exciting opportunity to learn about Zimbabwe. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at 263 Hub, and I'm responsible for growing our business over the next several years as you see Zimbabwe become the new destination.
So we are going to talk about Zimbabwe, but you are located in United States and in two different states, in two different cities. Which cities are those?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, the southeast territory of the USA, so the East Coast.
And I'm in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm more West Coast based.
So West Coast and south of United States, and let us maybe share a little bit history of Zimbabwe as the country, because I can imagine that not everybody knows where Zimbabwe is even located. So Zen, maybe you could just give us just a quick snapshot where Zimbabwe is, how big this country is, and what kind, for example, of languages are being used on a daily basis within this country.
Great question. So Zimbabwe is located right above Southern Africa. We neighbor South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, and Botswana. Zimbabwe, I mean, in a nutshell, we gained our independence in 1980, which was also part of what shaped our, I guess, technical aptitude. We were part of a British colony, and that surpassed and transcended into a lot of English being our main language. Over the course of time after independence, our country had a really big focus on education. And what ended up happening was our president at the time put in an initiative for education and created schools across the country. And this was back in 1980. Fast forward 20 years, those initiatives have allowed the Zimbabwean people to be probably, according to Google, the highest literacy rate in Africa. When you speak to people from Zimbabwe, you find that their accents are pretty neutral. It's not strong, it's not light, it's not weak, but it's a simple tone. And I think that comes from the education that we have been embarked on tremendously by our government. As a country, I guess we are a phenomenal part of the African Union. We are trying to become a global competitor in terms of education, talent, resources. It's a phenomenal country. I could go in depth forever and ever, but specifically, was there any other question that you may have that I could have answered? Sorry.
No, then this is great. So just last but not least, let's say from this geography perspective, what's the capital of Zimbabwe?
The capital is Harare, Zimbabwe, but a lot of people are familiar with Victoria Falls, which is the seventh wonder of the world, the largest waterfall in the world. So we're actually a lot of people who come to Zimbabwe either go to Harare or Vic Falls, either for business or for pleasure.
Okay, and it means that Harare is also the main business hub for Zimbabwe, isn't it?
That is correct. Yes.
And one of the businesses which actually is present over there is 263 Hub, the company which you are both representing. So, how did it happen that your company is present in United States?
Ah, great question. So part of I think a problem that happens in Africa, to answer your question, is there's a brain drain. Lack of opportunity causes a lot of the brighter minds to leave home and go seek opportunity elsewhere. Hence me. Back in 2005, I got an opportunity to get a tennis scholarship to the United States. I played Division 2 tennis, national champions, etc. And after that, instead of going home, I chose to stay and pursue opportunities here. Fast forward a few years, I was looking for a reason to help my country and come up with the business idea, at which I realized we had an abundance of talent, abundance of resource, over 300,000 graduates annually, but not as many jobs, which led me to go down the path of finding a problem and creating a solution. At which we reached out to the right people, put together the business, and we decided to have a location in the USA, East Coast and West Coast, because this is where our clientele is at the end of the day. The ideal clientele is in the western part of the world, Europe, America, North America. So we decided to strategize and create our entity here and in Zimbabwe.
And at some stage, Kelly joined the business. So, Kelly, what's your main role on a daily basis in 263 Hub?
Absolutely. So my main objective, obviously, is to grow the operation. So I've been in the industry about 30 years, working on anything from acquisitions to, operations, client services. So I had an opportunity. Zen actually is the person that approached me back last year about growing this business. And because I have mostly US based clients, that I've worked with over the last 30 years, it was really a good win win for both of us. So, an opportunity for Zimbabwe to grow into the US market, and an opportunity for me to help Zimbabwe grow. And this was, such a huge opportunity when Zen told me about the unemployment rate, the fact that, most of the young generation has to leave Zimbabwe to actually go and find work. This just was a no-brainer for me. This was more than a job. This was an opportunity to do something great over in Zimbabwe.
And tell me, what's the biggest, I would say, challenge when selling Zimbabwe? Because I can imagine that it is not so obvious for anyone that this is a business destination, a trustful destination, a destination with proper number of available people who can provide you business, and so on and so on. What are the challenges?
You're absolutely right. So I think one of the challenges is understanding, just like you said, it's understanding Zimbabwe. So to give you an example, one of the clients that I met with a couple of weeks ago had absolutely no idea that there were even, call centers or contact centers, BPOs in Zimbabwe or in Africa at all. So I had an opportunity to walk through, what our staff can do, sent recordings, just the normal things that you do, and they were shocked at the fact that there was not a language barrier. They were shocked that we were in a high-rise building. So it's educating people about what Africa is really about. It is a stable place to actually run an organization. That we don't have downtimes. That we're not using generators to run our businesses. We are actually up 24/7, 365. So teaching people that we are not in a location that is going to go down. That's a lot of fear when you're opening up BPOs. Is what does the infrastructure look like? And the infrastructure in Zimbabwe is very, very good.
So we know already that there are no power outages. And how about internet? Is internet available everywhere in Zimbabwe?
Great question. So Zimbabwe is connected pretty well. 5G is up and about. We are The company that we work with, 263 Hub, is partnered with one of the largest internet service providers in the country called Dande Mutande. And through that partnership, we are online at the end. We are online. I mean, if it's majority of the CBD is online, there are 4 to 5 big internet service providers. Starlink, the famous Starlink from Elon Musk, just arrived in Zimbabwe a few weeks ago. So in terms of making it accessible, even in the rural areas, we're moving towards that direction. But I would say probably 90% connectivity throughout the whole country. It is it. Do you know, Victor? I'm glad you asked that question. Did you know that in the year 2000 and 2002, Africa had 2 cell phones for every person who was on the continent? It's a simple statistic, but it just goes to point out that we have been connected. And even if it's a farmer out in the rural areas or someone in the CBD, we've been online for a while. And now I guess it's our time to just show.
Zen, but who needs two cell phones per person?
Ah, so it was more of a numbers thing, saying that's how many cell phones per person are out there. The average, is definitely one, but you have always have one just thrown away, an old phone or something. He said, "Who needs 2 cell phones?"
Yeah, yeah. I also heard some time ago that Africa is the continent where the mobile banking services are the most developed when it comes to wherever in the world.
Fintech, absolutely. We are, I mean, we were on fintech. You see, because a lot of currencies in Africa devalued early, fintech had to be adopted early. Same with solar. I mean, if you think about it, Africa, we went dark in the early 2000s when we were having power issues, and we had to come up with a solution. We've been on solar for over 20, 25 years now. While the world today, I'm getting cold calls in America. Hey, do you know what solar is? It's a different scape. But to your point, yes, fintech space is blowing up in Africa, partly because of the ability, everyone and everywhere, they need a form of transaction. And your fiat, typical fiat, is there, it's available, but a lot more creative ways of moving money are being created. And it's such an exciting place to be. Hence, I think also, Kelly, I think Kelly and I spoke about this. When we are in Africa, it isn't just the business in front of you. You learn so much just by seeing the different ecosystems and how so many small businessmen, small SMEs are operating and succeeding in today's climate. It's phenomenal, and being online has propelled that tremendously.
Let's go to services. Tell me what kind of CX, what kind of BPO services are being provided from Zimbabwe, for example, to United States.
Absolutely. So we actually, a lot of the clients that we have customer service, we have tech support where we're doing level one and level two tech support inbound. We do outbound lead generation. We're doing outbound sales right now. Inbound, we're doing some B2B work, some business to business work. Most of our work that we're doing, though, right now, to be honest with you, we have a very large pool of employees that we call virtual assistants. So our virtual assistants are an extension, direct extension of you as an individual. So they're doing social media output, they're doing email, they're sitting on meetings with their client and taking notes and providing tasks back. They're doing various different things. They could be answering phones. They could also be doing some lead generation, things like that. But that is our biggest vertical right now. In addition to the BPO space, where we're doing the inbound, outbound chat and email services, the VA, we also have what we call a KPO space. And the KPO space is Knowledge Process Outsourcing Group. And that group really can be anything from accountants to developers to we have social media content developers that work for us, marketing specialists. So in Zimbabwe, it's a lot cheaper to look at somebody that's in a knowledge process position because they have the same skill set as we do in the US, but the cost is anywhere between a third and a quarter of the cost that it is in the US. And all of our applicants have bachelor's, if not master's degrees, and have worked in the space or the area of expertise that we've hired them in for at least 3 to 5 years at a minimum.
And then how fast is the BPO market growing in Zimbabwe? I know that it's sometimes hard to say by numbers, but like in your feelings, in your subjective point of view, is it in such a way that, for example, the BPO, because it is not, I would say, too old, I would say. Is it like doubling the size per year, or what kind of speed of the growth it is?
I mean, tremendous growth. In the last 3 years, we've seen the emergence of over five BPOs being developed. I believe last year through the Contact Customer Service Association of Zimbabwe, Customer Experience Association of Zimbabwe, we have, I think, put up over 7,000 jobs in the last 12 months. Um, it's the growth is awesome, and it's also interesting to see the different niches that some of these BPOs are taking. For example, there's a BPO in Harare that only focuses on accounting, whereas there's another BPO in Harare that is only focused on banking. There's, in the same breath, another BPO in Harare that is focused on dental work. So it's fascinating to see that these BPOs are finding verticals and markets to focus on, and they're not deviating. And it's just a great space and awesome opportunity. We also have people like Rod Jones, who comes into Zimbabwe often. He hosts master classes, and through his initiatives, we are building a better customer service environment, and we're training people. I think that's one thing Kelly hasn't maybe has said, but has an initiative. We are training at a tremendous rate. We are putting all our dollars in the training division, as we believe we need to get everyone up to par to be competitive.
Rod Jones is like a Superman of CX of Africa. So this is absolutely a great guy. He's doing a fantastic work. So it's good to know that he is also providing his experience outside of South Africa as the country where he is based. So it's good to hear that. You mentioned already that there are some BPOs providing services for accounting, for banking, for dental, and so on and so on. And when it comes to 263 Hub, which industries do you focus the most when it comes to providing your services?
We actually tried to veer away from having specific verticals because in the BPO space, contact centers, in the US, you typically don't choose a vertical. You actually have various different verticals. So we did not limit ourselves to any specific vertical. So we are not limited at this time. We actually have healthcare clients, we have IT clients, we have retail space clients, we have green energy clients. We have some technical help desk clients. And
Don't forget the gaming client. We have a gaming client. I actually take pride in our gaming client because it's showing that even in a climate where certain technical attributes are hard to find, you can find them in Zimbabwe.
spot on.
You have developers in Zim who are familiar with games, which completely blew my mind when that came across.
And let's assume that you are targeting a new client. How and you are in with success, so you convince somebody to work with you. How long does it take to set up a team who will run the services?
That really depends on the size of the team. So if our applicant pool is extremely large, because the unemployment rate is so high in Zimbabwe, every time we put out an ad, we get thousands and thousands of applicants. So we don't have any problem getting applicants. So the process for us is pretty quick. However, I would say it's a minimum of 2 weeks if you're looking at a small campaign, 2 to 5 seats. If you're looking at something larger with a lot of training, probably 30 days to onboard.
Come on, 2 weeks is very short. 30 days as well. Sometimes I have an experience when talking to some companies that takes a little bit longer, and I was very kind saying that. Anyway, it is so good to talk to you, but I am looking at our time, and it's just passing by very, very fast. I know that this is our first conversation and probably not the last one, but if somebody wanted to get more information about Zimbabwe, to get more information about 263 Hub, where you would direct such person to?
Absolutely. They can reach out to Zen directly or myself directly. It's just Zen at 263hub.com and Kelly with an I at 263hub.com. Reach out to us directly and we would be more than happy to assist you.
I would love to add as well, on top of just directly reaching out to us, there is an initiative called BPO to Africa. It is ran or directed by Mark Angus, Rod Jones, a few people in South Africa, and it is an initiative to bring BPO all the way from the Cape to Cairo, which is the railroad all the way from the bottom of Africa to the top of Africa. We want to join and be one united voice for BPO in Africa. And we will share more information around that. I wanted to bring it out because it is bigger than just Kelly at 263 and Zen. We are trying to BPO to Africa. It is a united effort.
I think that on this line, this is even the same time zone, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, so if we talk about the time, we need to put the full stop and just finish our recording. But it was so great to find out so many details. I have 2 pages of notes when talking to you about Zimbabwe as the business destination. So I keep my fingers crossed for the growth of your business and for making people more aware how good business destination Zimbabwe is. Thank you for today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for having us.